Ali. I grew up in Somalia, Ethiopia, Saudi Arabia, and Kenya. And I'm delighted to be here. I'm delighted to be an American. I'm delighted to be in Santa Barbara. I just can't believe the combination of weather and life. And I really wish that the rest of the world looked like this and felt like this. What I'm going to do now, I obviously have to give an entire speech later on with questions and answers. But what I'd like to do now is just take a few questions for you. Because I've been doing this for a very long time, and I know that later on I will not be able to process all the questions that people have. So I'll take a few questions before we move on to the next stage. And here's an arm swinging.
That's right there. That's right.
It's just not far away.
From Ethiopia.
Yes, from Ethiopia. Very good. I've been reading your book, I've been watching your show, and I've been learning. I think you are very intelligent, articulate, very smart girl, and I know because I am like you, Muslim. I got married at 14. I had my baby at 15. I'm 62 years old. And I was raised in a restricted Muslim family. My question is for you. I know the radical Muslim. I know the bad Muslims. I think there is no way you can change by preaching Muslim and Muhammad, the Quran, criticize the Quran, criticize Muslim, criticize Islam. Instead of doing that, is there any way you can change? Teach the women, teach the kids, like the radical Muslim, what they do from the childhood. They teach them to be bad, to kill, to this and that. But you've been doing this for the past, I don't know, from 9/11. United States went to Afghanistan, to Iraq, didn't solve about radical. It's getting worse. And so, is there any way with your power, with your knowledge, teach women and children to be good instead of, already we are enemy with the radical Muslim, even in Ethiopia. You lived in Ethiopia. Right now, there is the Muslim and Christian. We work like this. My friends are Christian. We eat together, we sleep together. But right now, there is a clash between Muslim and Christian. Never heard like that. So there is no way it can be solved, but as a whole, as a country, to teach them good things. Because what you are preaching, hate Muslim, hate Quran. I know, I respect my religion. I'm Muslim. I was raised in a restricted Muslim like you. Everything you went through, I went through. That's why I give you my book. It's my story is right there. It is like your story. But I'm not going to sit the radical Muslim or the terrorist to criticize them. There are people, my story is right there. Not to be advertised. For you to read my story, it's the same story. But I came to the United States. God bless America, the best country in this whole world. I lived in Italy, I lived in Asia, I lived everywhere. There is no place like America. Santa Barbara, those are my cousins. But latest two short questions. I think we need to get together to empower women and children instead of having an enemy and criticize Islam and Muslims.
May I call you Mollie?
Yes, of course.
Okay, Mollie. So the reason why I picked up this book, I've only just met you.
Yes.
And I'm looking at the cover of this book. And what does it tell me? What does it tell you? and about life now, not life after death, life before death. That's, I walk into this room, the way you squeeze my hand, the way you talk, your walk, what you do, the fact that you are, what did you say, 60, how many years? 60. You are 62 years old and you look like you are 46. You know, it's all about life. It's about the here and now and growing up. And you know, growing up, as a Muslim, life after death was emphasized more than life before death. You love America. I love America because it gives us a chance to do this sort of thing. If you want to feed people good food and you're passionate about it, you do it. If you want to do people's hair and you're passionate about it, that's what you do. If you want to go into high technology, that's what you do. It's all about now, here and now. That's what you teach your children. Growing up, unfortunately, especially from the time I was 15 years old, a cancer came into my family, into my classroom, and into my neighborhood in the shape of radical Islam. And it was telling me, my classmates, my neighborhood, it's nothing about this life is worth it. Nothing is worth it. Invest in life after death. I was immersed in a narrative of death. Everything will be fine after you die. All you need to do is sacrifice your life for that utopia, for that promise. That's what happened to your community and my community. At the age of 15, living in Nairobi, Kenya, my best friends were Christians. By the way, I didn't actually care whether they were Christian or not. I didn't care about their religion. I was skipping rope. I was playing volleyball. I, at 15, showed an interest in the opposite sex. So we were listening very secretively to Michael Jackson, and we were doing breakdance moves. That's what we were interested in. And if you had that vibe, then you were my friend. And these people come in and they say no. All of that is decadence, and for that you need to burn and boil and broil in hell. And I remember for a time, 4 or 5 years, I gave in to that. I completely feel you. You are going on about your life, I was going on about my life, and there's this narrative. And this narrative that seemed to be obscure, that seemed to be eccentric. Back then, it was eccentric. I think to you in Santa Barbara, it is still eccentric. I think you don't get it. If I lived here, for God's sake, I wouldn't get it. Why would I?
Come live here.
I don't want to be the last one. Why would you get it? But once you get it and you understand that for some reason, and we're still struggling to explain why is it that young people, teenagers, young adults, large swathes of humanity are subscribing to this? Why? Until we understand it and we explain. I'll give you my explanation tonight. I've written 2, 3, 4 books about it, but you don't have to take my word for it. Please don't. I just want to say something. Who in this community, in this room, is not a classical liberal? A classical. I didn't say a liberal. I said a classical liberal. Who here does not believe in the fact that the individual human life and freedom is sacred? If you don't believe in that, then I have very bad news for you. National Socialism is dead.
Yes.
Communism is dead. The challenge of the day is Islamic extremism. And it manifests itself in ways that many of us are struggling to understand and are trying to keep up with. In fact, the proponents of liberalism are on the defensive. They do something and we respond. We're not on the offensive, we're on the defensive. And that's what you're telling us in your language, with your passion, and with your background. And that's what I'm trying to do. Islamic extremism is an assault on liberalism, classical liberalism. The idea that the individual human being, his or her rights, her freedoms are sacred. It's an assault on that. Islamic extremism divides the world into we versus they, those who believe versus those who don't. Islamic extremism then has a set of actions that believers have to take. Kill the unbelievers, take their women as slaves, take their property, kill the apostates, establish societies based on Sharia law. All of this is an assault on the idea that we took for granted, that we take for granted. We, meaning some of us, take for granted, particularly in Santa Barbara. So if you invited me, and you invited me and paid me to come here to give you a nightmare, to wake you up, to shake you awake, that's exactly what I'm doing. That's exactly what I'm doing. And I hope later on tonight, with what did you say, 700 people will be there, that we will be able to talk about it and discuss it more in detail. But I see my role as coming here to say to you, at the expense of my life and at the expense of my family life, you guys need to wake up and stand up for what we believe in before we are overtaken by this ideology.